I literally thought, Ben, everybody was hearing the same thing that I was hearing, but it's not so. There's this unique gift that God has given me where I'm hearing tone, I'm hearing pathos, I'm hearing literal trauma on vocal cords. And it's hard for me to explain how I know what I know. When God gives us a vision, it's not for anybody else. It's our job to see it, to write it, to make it plain, and then to help others see it by living it out, by putting it out there in the world. It's going to free somebody. It's going to bless somebody. It's going to bring more beauty and joy in the world. So we must live out whatever that creativity is.
How are you doing today?
Today, I'm actually doing really, really well.
Oh, amazing.
Top of the morning was really productive, so I'm feeling good.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it's sunny in Chicago. It's like sunny in Chicago now.
It is astronomically warm for this time of year. Today is going to hit almost 60 degrees, and it's February.
Which is nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I brought the warm weather from California.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Of course. Yeah, I always I don't know, Chicago is an interesting city because it's like you have the big city vibes, and in the winter it feels like New York, and you're like, oh, it should just be cold all the time. But then you realize you are in the Midwest, and so you're gonna get days where it's snowing and then sunny and
all in the same day.
And there's nothing you can really do about it.
Nothing. Oh, I love it. Sunshine makes my soul come alive. So this is good for me.
I love it. Okay, so I want to get your take on marriage because I'm single, and a lot of the people that I have aren't necessarily married and have that experience. So let's start off strong by 2 tips for single people that are looking to get married. Yeah.
2 tips.
Drop the knowledge.
So the number 1 tip that I have is to understand your individuality before the Father first. Because when you merge in a marriage with someone else, it's very easy as the man or the woman, the husband or the wife, to lose your individuality in the other. And when that happens, things go haywire.
Like what? What happens?
Like you lose sight of who you really are, which means that the voice of God as it's manifest through you is dimmed, it's muddied, it's clouded. So you're not really living out your full purpose because you've submerged yourself into the other instead of being an individual in service, in love, in ministry to the other.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, being able to be I don't know, just who you are and being able to be secure in that before you attach it to somebody else.
Yes. It's epic.
That's wild.
It's epic. Yeah.
And you're married. You have how many kids?
I'm married. This year will be 20 years of marriage.
Wow. Congratulations.
August. Thank you. Yeah. We have 6 children.
Insane.
And I was trying to have another baby last year.
He didn't want it, did he?
He was like, absolutely not. Are you crazy? And I was like, sometimes I am, but we're getting more mature.
You just need some alone time.
Right. We're getting a little bit more mature. And so I just got to the point where when I see a baby or a pregnant woman, I'm not like, like everything in me is all emotional. So now I'm like, oh, that's cute. I think I'm good.
Yeah. You have a little bit more of a mature response.
Making progress.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, 6 is a lot. My mom had 10. So
See?
it's big families they're a good thing.
I love big family. I'm one of 8. My dad is one of 13. My mom is one of 7. So I love big family.
It runs in the blood for you guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
But that second thing about marriage is communication. And
I hear that a lot. What's your take on it?
Well, I'm all about communication. I'm all about words. a couple things. There's this scripture, one of my favorite scriptures. It's like, let love be without dissimulation. And that means like no double-facedness, no covert action. And so when that comes to communication, we have to be willing to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to say the hard things. We have to be willing to express what I like as well as what I don't like. And what's been important in my relationship with my husband is understanding our communication styles.
How are they different?
I am
how do you navigate that?
Right.
We're getting into it deep right off the bat.
I'm very much like, hey, there's an issue. Let's confront that right now. I don't mind conflict at all because I truly believe that after we go through it, we can be closer. Our hearts can be knit, even more together. But my husband is more like, unless it's an atomic bomb dropping, we don't really need to address that just now, if ever. Let's just move on.
He's like, let's go get ice cream.
Exactly. Like,
wait, he likes ice cream? I did not know that, guys.
He likes ice cream, or he likes like light things like jokes. And all I can think is, how are you trying to tell me a joke? And there's an issue at hand. And so over the years, I've had to learn how to throttle back a bit and give him the space and time that he needs, as well as, this is like level 700, approaching him in a way to talk about the conflict in a way that doesn't like set off whistles and bells and alarms in his mind. And for him, he's like very man's man, very traditional. And so if I come kind of rough and aggressive, he's like,
hold up.
Right. Hold on. But if I come like, hey, babe, remember that thing? Let's kind of talk about it. He's like, okay. And so knowing who you are and knowing how to communicate with your partner, and without seeing Jesus Christ as the glue, the first, the last, the everything, the reason why this beautiful expression of union is even possible, everything is figure outable after that.
Well, I'm taking notes, that's for sure. Still trying to find my one, but no, that's really good. I can definitely see how that can help relationships, and not only just help relationships, but help you to like grow as individuals as well, like together, because that's like the whole essence of marriage, is growing as individuals together, not just necessarily like having a family and having kids. Right.
No, it's growing together in the service of God, actually. And however that's expressed in your union, in your call, in your, vocation in life. But I noticed, like, because I did go through that time period where I kind of lost my individuality. It was not good for him. It was not good for the mission. Like, none of it. And so, like, really tapping into who you are, that's what really sets the tone, even in coming together.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'm really excited for this conversation, like, and even just talking about this now, it's really awesome, because I think for people that are listening, obviously, like, this is like a creative podcast. And so, in the creator world now, everybody's like, doing like cool camera stuff, or like, making music or whatever. But you have like a different type of creative eye, creative ear, and you're using your creative gifts in like a really unique way. And I was really excited when I first met you, because one, we just connected really well just off the bat in a random place, but also I just really loved your ability to articulate your passion and what God is like, the gifts that God has given you, and why you're using them. And I think it's just like really valuable for people to hear. So I'm stoked for you to be on. What's your, what do you do, and how did you get into it? Educate me and educate everybody else on that.
So every time I hear that question, I'm like, how did I get here? Like, God, you tricked me. You like set me up. Like, how did I get here? But ultimately, I'm a voice consultant and coach. And what that means is on the human side of the spectrum, I work with anybody who's trying to use their voice to create outcomes that they need or desire. So I mainly work with a lot of execs, founders, actors and actresses, people who are really showing up in their voice. And then I even work on the AI side where I'm working with companies consulting with ethical voice design for embodied digital assistants.
Wow.
So it's like this whole spectrum, all things voice, not singing.
Literally.
That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, you're like, I can't consult there.
I cannot consult there, and you would pay me not to sing. Okay? So when it comes to speaking, I literally thought, Ben, everybody was hearing the same thing that I was hearing, but it's not so. And so there's this unique gift that God has given me where I'm hearing tone. I'm hearing prosody. I'm hearing pathos. I'm hearing literal trauma on vocal cords. And it's hard for me to explain how I know what I know. I wish I could operationalize it and teach somebody else. But this is truly a gift that God has given me. And when I'm working with others, it's not just so that they can sound good. My calling is literally so that they can eliminate the barrier to let what God put in them be shared with the world vocally.
Wow.
So that their genius and their talents can shine.
Wow. So you're essentially like helping people open the doorway of their creativity.
Yes.
And like helping them take advantage of their passion and their like gifts even more.
Absolutely. Because I don't care what you do. Oftentimes we have to talk about it. I don't care if you created some software, if you're an artist, or even if I have a lot of wives that come just to say, I need to know how to communicate better with my husband. And so whatever the gift, whatever the calling is, oftentimes we have to use our mouth, our words, our voice to communicate some aspect of it. And when we can peel back the layers of trauma, when we can take this gift that God gave us, this creative power of a voice and like take all the muck off of it, we can really begin to communicate in some beautiful, expansive ways. And that excites me.
Oh, yeah. It seems like it. When I first met you too, it was just like, you were just very excited about like what you were doing. And it's gravitating. It's really cool to see someone that knows what they want to do, knows what they're called to do, and is like fully just living it.
But I didn't always know that. I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I've only been running my consultancy for 7 years.
Okay.
And that was because my best friend called me out on it.
What'd she say?
So,
and what were you doing before that?
Exactly. Okay. So right before I launched the voice consultancy full-time as a medical missionary. And so what that looked like was helping people overcome disease of body, mind, and spirit through natural remedies, hygienic principles, biblical scriptures, and things like that. Yeah. And it was in that process, I worked strictly with women. My husband worked strictly with men. And every time I would have a woman sort of like in some really interesting scenarios, whether they're getting a colon irrigation or some kind of treatment, they would begin to just divulge things, or God would download things to me that I could not possibly know about them in our session. And it was usually centered around their internal voice and the disconnect with how they were showing up in the world, literally in their speaking voice or just in the way they were showing up. And so it was this one woman. She worked in a male-dominated field in a warehouse. And she was just like, I don't understand why these men don't really respect me.
Really?
And in my mind, I was like, okay, girl, I can tell you exactly why. And so I was like, well, if you just permit me to be honest and plain. She was like, please. I was like, girl, it's your voice. Like, the limbic system of men, especially in these here United States of America, have been trained to not respect that high-pitched sing-songy voice because it sounds like a little girl. So why would they be giving authority over to a little girl? And she was just looking like, what? So quickly taught her how to kind of drop her pitch, change her prosody to go from more flow piano-like to more staccato drum-like. And we practiced a few things. And within 3 weeks, Ben, she called me back and was like, I just want to thank you. Amazing progress in the, warehouse. And so I relayed that to my best friend. And my best friend was like, that's amazing. You're so selfish.
You go, hold up, what?
Exactly. How do those two things even go together, right? Like, not only did I help her, I'm a whole missionary, like living on donations.
You're calling me selfish.
How? And she was like, here you have this gift and you're not even putting it out there. You're not letting people know what's available. And so I laughed her off, but then those words were like eating me up on the inside for weeks.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And so finally I was like, okay, God, I mean, I had to assent. I had to agree. Like, this is something that you've given me. And what am I going to do with it? Like that, Matthew 25, is it? When it talks about the talents, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And how if you don't multiply, you're considered a wicked and slothful servant. Like, that scripture motivates me and haunts me all at once. So I was like, I got to do something with it. So I launched Vocal Culture Garden.
That's wild. I think it's crazy too. Like, I don't know, just like being a creative, especially in this day and age, it's something where most people, when they think about being creative, is like using their gifts and their talents. And they think about like a dream or a passion that they have. Not that people that, are an accountant or a doctor don't. Like, that's the same thing. But I think it's this like glamorized, heightened like thing in like the creative world as well. Can you speak to that just a little bit too? How like you felt, your friend told you were being selfish because you weren't using it. And yet like there's so many of us who aren't necessarily stepping into that calling that we've been given or that we feel led to go down. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Like, what comes to my mind right away is that creativity has had a narrow shine, if you will. And let me explain that. If you're a singer, if you're an artist, if you're a painter, a photographer, a dancer, videographer, you're shining. But if you're working with a voice, or even if you're an ophthalmologist or something like that, then it's like, oh no, that's more technical. That's more scientific. That's not creative. Yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. And so allowing the box to be burned, taking off the guardrails and the braces on what creativity is, it makes me think way back. Let's go way back to creation. Hello? When God said, right, literally, he spoke the world into existence. And for me personally, that's like so hot, like, because I deal with voice. He said,
that's crazy,
I hope that didn't, but he said, and so whatever our calling is, when God gives us a vision, it's not for anybody else. It's our job to see it, to write it, to make it plain, and then to help others see it by living it out, by putting it out there in the world. Because whatever vision that we have, it's not just for us. It's going to free somebody. It's going to bless somebody. It's going to bring more beauty and joy in the world. So it's like we must take the box and just burn it and live out whatever that creativity is.
Yeah. What you said about also it being for other people, not us, is so true too. And it's wild to see like our world essentially flip that on its head and be like, no, like your dream, your passion is for yourself. And so you see all these people that are like pursuing it for themselves. And it's not that you can't have motives where you're like, oh, like, I want to be able to do this better, or I want to like get better at this for myself as well. I want to create for myself and create things that are gonna like bless me down the road. Like even just capturing life for me as a photographer. Like I love creating things that I'm gonna get joy from. But at the end of the day, if you talk about metrics of success, this success comes when you put others in front of yourself and use your gift for others rather than yourself.
Isn't that so like countercultural right now?
Oh yeah, so much. Yeah.
Everything in culture right now is, if it doesn't work for me, if it doesn't motivate me, if it doesn't please me, if I can't benefit from it, cancel it.
Yeah.
And that is so antithetical to how we're really supposed to show up in our gifts, in our talents, in our creativity. It's like, yes, it's going to bless the giver first, but then look at why social media is so impactful. The good parts of it anyway, is because you get to share it
with others,
And that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's not that you don't ever get kickback, like, but the goal is to bless like others with that gift and help others even find their voice, find their passion, or just like fix a problem that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, how do I change that light bulb?
I don't know. Let me show you. Let me make a video. Let me show you. Let me, use my gift to show you. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned something about healing when it comes to the work that you do. You're helping people find their voice, but you're also helping them heal. How are you doing that?
Okay, so that's a great question. Oftentimes, no, not even oftentimes, all the time when I work with a client, I work in a very holistic way because our voices are literally just an audio blueprint of our internal reality. So we have to look at what is our internal reality. So I have to be very careful not to like tap back into my old profession as a therapist and just keep it really focused. But we look at the voice and maybe what type of trauma that they've experienced around the voice. For example, many women, when we're young girls, we're full of life, we're effervescent, but 9 times out of 10, somebody came along and was like, that's too much. You're too loud. That's silly. No one wants to hear that right now. And those little statements that probably weren't intended to cause any harm began to slowly silence the voice, cause the inner reality to go, well, I can't be so loud. I can't be so happy. I can't be so free. And all of these things physiologically dwell in the body. And so the literal speaking voice becomes smaller, quieter, more tame, loses its color or flexibility to really play in a full range. So we have to go back and peel back those layers and pull out that bottom card, which I call a foundational lie that Satan tries to plant. So let's say if the foundational lie was, you're too loud. Well, too loud for what? Too loud for when? Am I never to be loud? What if you are loud now? What's going to happen? So we literally...
Game over. You're too loud? Done. Canceled.
Right, canceled.
Get out.
And so we have to literally go back and peel back those layers, pull out that foundational lie and begin to build a new truth and a new reality on top of that. And you know what happens. Have you ever played like building a card house? You pull that bottom card, everything tumbles down.
Everything comes down.
So in healing the voice, it impacts relationships, how you show up at work, your self-worth, all of it. And so we do all of that kind of work. And what emerges is this beautiful, healed soul, which automatically sounds different.
Oh, yeah. And I bet like through that, you're also giving people a chance to unleash like different like character qualities too that they like kind of had hidden. And Look,
I get so excited talking about it. Yes. Character qualities no matter, I can give you so many examples. For instance, there was this one woman, a wife, learning how to communicate better.
Yeah.
She was very rigid in her communication with her husband. It was almost very businesslike. She was able to tap into some of that like softer, playful, more romantic reality, which I'm sure her husband appreciated, versus an actress I worked with couldn't tap into like those weightier, heavier roles because her voice was so light. So just being able to unleash like some fierceness. And so like there, imagine if you have a repertoire, like a wide range of ways of being, when you like go to voice coaching in the way that I do it, it allows you to put on more of those outfits, put on more of that character. And we're not acting.
Yeah.
Can I say that again?
You can say that again.
We are not acting. That's like one of my pet peeves when they say, oh, well, you teach people how to act. No, I don't. I teach people how to access what is there, what has been buried, what has been silenced, to uncover it. Because if God put it there, who are we not to let it out? We just have to unmuddy it. And so that's the healing. That's the revealing that happens in the voice work.
Yeah. And it's great work too. I mean, even just like in my life, I've like, not through you, but I've found through other areas and other people how to kind of like unleash like inner voices that have been silenced. And it's crazy, like the amount of things that I can do now and the amount of ways that I can even help other people work through trauma and figure out things that they're going through just because like I did the work to go through.
You
mine.
Dared.
Yeah. Yeah. I dared.
You dared.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But it's also really cool when you involve God in it because it can take the weight off of your shoulders to even work through that as well. And it can allow you to like find that true healing and have peace through like that whole process as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily go on the crazy roller coaster to get there.
Yes. Yeah. It's so interesting when you say like to involve God in the process. It just like lifts a burden.
Yeah.
But I work with some clients who are like, don't mention God to me. Like he's a spoof, you know? And you know, I come from a place where God is everything, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But the wisdom that God gives, the love, the compassion that he gives, that as I work with them and their voice and we start peeling back those layers, it's almost as if they start saying, well, maybe there is a God, because this can't be that much serendipity happening, you know? And well, maybe what happened to me when I was 10 and now I'm 43 and I can see like little blips on the radar throughout the way. Maybe that is a single thread of intelligent design.
Yeah.
And so I love those clients.
I was going to say, like, how do you even go about those relationships and how do you like toe the line between being respectful in a professional environment, but also introducing people to a deeper level of healing, a more peaceful way of healing? Because you never want to force that on people. Right. And we're not called to, even like as believers, to force that on people anyway. So like how do you go about that?
One, I love what you said. In the kingdom of God, there is no force. None. It's all free will, right? So how I navigate that is, first of all, just loving people, like genuinely loving this soul that's sitting before me. Yeah. Number two, I'm free to just share who I am. Like, you don't believe, but I do. And let me tell you something. What really freed me up is in our culture today, so many people are like, well, yes, I practice Buddhism and it influences my work. Or I am of the Baha'i faith and the teachings of Baha'u'llah, informs my work. Or, you even see CPG goods with like the goddess Kali on it. And all these people who practice other religions, they're very forward about, they're not trying to push it on you, but they're very forward. It's a part of their life. It's part of their life. They lead with what they believe. And it's my choice to engage, to ask or not. So I'm like, the creator of the universe, the one who leads me and guides me, I can lead. So oftentimes I'll let my clients know, well, I believe this and it informs this. And that's why I'm thinking about it this way. And they can either be like, and I don't force it, but just a respectful, this is what informs me. And I have not had anyone ever just go, no, I don't want to go any further. I don't want to work with you. They might say something like, well, I don't really see it that way. And I'm like, great, that's perfect. Let's keep it, moving.
Keep it professional. Move on.
Right.
No, I think that's beautiful. And I think that's such like a good representation of how God calls us to like share the gospel too. Cause it's just through like a testimony of how God is moving in our life and then sharing how God could move in your life if you allowed that to happen.
Yeah. And the love part, I have to emphasize that.
Definitely.
Didn't the Bible say they would know us by our love?
Yeah.
And if we become these like spiritual snobs, we're like vinegar. We're repelling.
Yeah.
But if we're loving, not like in this false love where we just accept any old thing, agree to any old thing, work with any old thing, but in a true, like, I love the humanity. You are my brother and sister. Like, God created both of us. We don't believe the same thing, but that makes you no less than. Exactly.
Loving the personality, loving the way that someone moves and operates and laughs and cries and everything. Yeah.
And I say it all the time.
And it's not just loving so that you can share the gospel.
That's not love. That's like, manipulation.
That's not love. Yeah, exactly.
That's not love. That's manipulation. Yeah. And humanity reaches humanity.
100%.
Every time.
Yep. No, that's really good. I like it a lot. Yeah. And honestly, like, it's also crazy how just a little bit of true human love can go a long way in helping people find healing. I don't know. I'm not able to think of anything specifically, but just knowing how little acts of kindness can like change someone's life, change the direction of their day.
Absolutely.
Allow them to just connect with a like-minded person and find like little bits of healing like throughout their day, throughout their week, throughout their month.
I live my life propelled by those moments. Like I can think of so many examples. I will never forget, I was younger. I was working for this marketing firm. That day, for some reason, like I was all in my like, I look horrible today. I'm not feeling it, whatever. And I remember I went through my day like that and I got on the bus to return home and I just got on the bus and the bus driver just looked at me and was like, "You look great today." I was like, that must be Jesus himself, right?
Out of left field. What?
Out of left field. But do you know how transformative that was for me? Just that little act. So it could be a kind word. It could be a smile. It could be helping somebody with their bags. And then another instance that stays with me, when I was in graduate school, one of my professors, I saw her outside the classroom, just walking down the street. We were in passing. And when we were in passing, she just stopped for a quick second. And she just said, "You're going to make a great therapist one day. Keep it up." And just kept walking. I was like, I'm going to be great. You like
write that on a sticky note, put it in your mirror. Like
I just kept it in my mind.
You live by it. Yeah.
And it was almost like she transferred her belief in me and it became my belief. And it literally caused me to finish my program with such a different mindset.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think like having those people to kind of like guide us with those little moments is so important. And you never know who it's going to be. Like it could be your parents growing up if you had like a really good, household. It could be a teacher. It could be a friend. Stranger. Like, I mean, I remember like so many little moments, even as a kid, that still impact me today. Even like last week, I reconnected with an old friend from elementary school.
Wow.
And was able to like share with him, and then like his dad basically, like I have this moment where we were like riding dirt bikes, and just being stupid, being kids, and I like essentially crashed softly, but crashed like into a tree, like laid the bike down. And one, I kind of like broke the bike, which was my friend's, and a little like just kind of broke a little piece of it. So I was like shamed of like automatically, I don't want to get on that bike again. Like I don't want to break it again, you know? And then also I was kind of like hurt too. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to get on. But I remember his dad was just like, hey, you're getting on this bike again and you're riding it now.
Yes.
Like you're getting back on the horse. You're proverbially, you're getting back on the horse and you're riding this because you need to conquer like what you just failed at.
Yes.
And that like sticks with me today, like so much. Just like not only him, but other people telling me that as well. Just whenever I fail at something, I'm like constantly reminded of that truth of like, okay, but what are you going to do now to get back on the dirt bike and keep going?
Talk about creativity and failing. If we're not giving ourselves permission to fail, I mean, will we ever get where we really need to be?
Probably not.
Will we ever like get to that destination? Like, no. And then
you just remain stagnant as well because you're not pushing boundaries. You're not.
Exactly. And a lot of that has to deal with going back to childhood where we weren't given permission to fail. Or if we failed, we were penalized for it. And so all this self-doubt and shame to show up and fail enters even into our adult life. And like, you know, we said I have 6 children. I homeschool them all.
Oh, no way. I was homeschooled as well.
Were you?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I'm always like, have we failed today? Then we're not trying. Like, I try to let them know that failure is just a part of life and that we can learn from it. We can grow from it. We can get better from it. And it doesn't mean you're a horrible person or that you'll never do better. It's just like, that was that.
Yeah, exactly. Just move on. My mom did the same thing with us as well. And my dad as well, just like allowing us to like fail in little ways and even encouraging us, especially when it just came to like creativity or like skills that we had and whatnot.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was like sheltered a little bit growing up. So there's a little bit of like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. But I like look back and I'm like, yeah, I was given opportunities to fail.
Yes.
And I was given grace in like a lot of different areas.
That's awesome.
And I don't think I would be able to pursue things that I'm pursuing now if I wasn't given that as a kid, you know?
Same.
So.
Same. Yeah. Like my mother, like, and this has just all been coming together for me in the last several years. People started asking me, like, how are you so confident? How can you just take the stage? How can you launch this voice consultancy and nobody even really knows what that is? You're standing up talking about it like it's everything.
Yeah.
And it's because when I was young, my mother never said no to an idea. Even if we didn't know how to make it come true, she would say, we'll figure it out. And just
That's
that
powerful.
just that little thing made me feel like everything is figure outable. And that whatever I wanted to do, I could somehow pursue it. And it didn't matter if it worked out or not. The fact was, I went after it. And so that's really informed, even in my voice practice, how I show up for myself as well as for my clients. I'm always gassing them up.
Oh yeah. You're taking actionable steps. Like, and that actionable step one day could be 5 inches. And then the next day you're like jumping across the Grand Canyon, making a big leap because you were able to take small steps that got you to the point of like taking a massive leap. And, you know, I've heard this a lot said as well on other podcasts and like the entrepreneurial world, especially. But it's so true. And I've seen it in my life and I've seen it in friends' lives. And it's the fact that the only difference between you and the person who is like mega successful in like your same field is not necessarily always just because they're pure genius or because they have this skill that nobody else has, but that they decided that they were just going to take the next step and start taking action. And then that compounds over months, years.
I'm getting butterflies.
They're there, you know?
Yeah.
And the only reason that you're not, it's because you haven't taken the steps, you know?
Right.
Like it's crazy. And it's becoming cliche now, which is really interesting. I have this thought that I always like go by when I hear someone or I hear myself say like, oh, that's cliche. I always like stop and think about it again, because the most cliche things in society are usually the things that are backed up by the most truth.
Exactly.
And we just use cliche as a way to just write it off and be like, I don't have to worry about that. Like, that's cliche.
No, it's true. Like, to your point, last year with the voice consultancy, I decided that I was going to start taking some risk and really going after voice the way that it's in my head. And
in what way is that?
Oh my goodness. Like, my voice just changed. I want to make voice so accessible to people. I want people to be thinking about their voices and the power of what they can create. I want voice to be like a new vertical in wellness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like a cold plunge or going to the gym or going to see a therapist. I want people to think about voice as a tool that's given from God to create new realities.
Yeah.
And I want it to feel very palpable, right? And so I started launching like little salon series where I would do things like the frequency of attraction, talking about voice and attraction between male and female, because everybody wants to know that, right?
Oh, 100%.
The science behind it, right?
We got to break that down. You know? Same. Trying to find my wife over here and need to figure out how I need to talk to her so, you know, she'll fall in love with me. No,
and so just going after
I'll buy that masterclass.
You'll buy that masterclass? Right. And making it very accessible. And then getting into spaces where I know people are genius, but they don't show up in their voices, like deep tech, deep science. And once I started saying yes and literally taking the next step, doors started to open, opportunities started to spring forth. My well of joy just started to overflow. And all I can think was, why didn't I do this sooner? Fear.
Yep. Fear, for sure.
What will they think?
Yeah.
People don't know. Will people care? I don't care. Now I don't care if people care. I care.
Yeah.
And it's what brings me joy. And I know that if God put it in me, somebody else is going to find some merit in it some way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing to say, honestly. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about nature, because we were talking like off camera and you were saying that nature really just like gets you going in a different way, and it kind of like not only inspires you, but also heals you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting all emotional just thinking about it right now. But
I mean, I get emotional when I see a sunset, so yeah.
So listen, nature is literally the first school book for humanity.
How?
God created us. He put us in the garden. We had to learn how to work with the natural world. We were there. Then he gave instruction like, name these animals. And then he was like, oh, you have dominion over this. Not in like the way we see dominion now, like conquer, destroy, but like to work with it, to lead, to guide it, to learn from. It was this beautiful reciprocal relationship between humanity and nature. And so when I see a sunset, when I see the veins in a leaf, when I see the bud of a flower in the morning closed, then I come back out in the afternoon, it's open. I'm literally like, my God, my God,
crazy.
Right? And even when, have you ever been like in the forest and all the artificial noises of the city are gone, like the train.
Yeah, like the train right now.
Like the humming of electricity, like all the voices. And you just hear like bugs and birds and wind rustling.
Yeah.
It makes me think, and you hear your own internal voice,
Yeah.
which is scary for a lot of people. It's like the impact of nature just reminds me how small I am. But it also reminds me of how close God wants to be with me and the downloads.
Yeah.
The for me, like flowers, oh, they just delight me. The colors, the hues, the creativity that inspires something just so tangential. Like that's what nature does, not just for me, but for so many people. Like how they study honeycombs and bees, and architecture is based on beehives and things like that. Like everything we really need to know is already done in nature. Like doctrine of signatures, like just taking inspiration from that and letting it fuel us and anchor in with like that stuff that we've learned to create something that we consider new. I
was gonna ask, like, this is a little off topic maybe, but do you think that without the nature that God had created, we as humans would even be able to conceptualize some of these things that we've drawn inspiration from?
That is a great question, because I'm like, if nature wasn't teaching us, then how would we know? But then maybe he would have had some other program.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, maybe he would have just downloaded it in our brains.
Directly.
And I believe that happens as well. And that has happened. I mean, through so many geniuses that have
absolutely
lived. But it just really eats my brain sometimes. Like, how much we actually do draw from the creator, and how much like there's not really an original thought or an original creation.
I agree with that.
It's just all reinterpretation. It's all renewing like what's already there. Even now, there's artists, musicians, filmmakers. There isn't really like new original, Apple TV will be like, oh, it's an Apple TV original, but is it an original thought? Is it an original movie, film?
Right.
Like probably not. It's drawn from inspiration from something else.
From somewhere. And it makes me think about how now what's becoming popular with, is his name Andre 3000?
I don't know.
He was a former member of the group Outkast.
Okay.
And he released an album that's like all flute, meditative music, done like
I was going to say, this might be before my time. Who knows?
Look, I'm dating myself. Music done.
Don't let them know.
Right. On a certain frequency,
Yeah.
The heart frequency, 520, things like that.
Yeah.
This is very ancient wisdom. Like when I think about the Psalms and how the Psalms were literally poems or meditations or prayers set to music that was then taught and sang in the sanctuary service.
Yeah.
And they were done to a very specific frequency. And so all of that is starting to become popular again, and it's considered new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, I mean, I'm not really aware of that, so you'll have to educate me on it, but I catch the drift, and I agree with that. I've definitely seen it. Yeah.
And for me, sound and voice are so intimately connected. In my mind, sound is unstructured voice.
Okay.
Or should I say the sounds that we make are unstructured, but when we speak, it's more structured. So when I hear sounds, like the whooshing of a wind, the singing of a bird, even like around my house, we have a lot of jokes about woodpeckers and the sound that they make.
Yeah.
But all of that, it's like, what would that translate to if it was actually spoken? Who thinks like that? I'm like, God, why am I thinking like that? But that's how I think.
Yeah. And that's the gift that God's given you.
Yes.
Do you ever like translate that?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes, like there is a, I'll give you an example. Moaning and humming, moaning and groaning.
Okay.
Those are like guttural sounds, oftentimes expressing extreme distress or extreme pleasure. My mind says it translates those into words and into thought. And oftentimes I write a poem. And then I can take that feeling that was in the moan or in the groan and translate it to words, but then also express it or recite it in a way that taps right back into the moan or the groan.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how my mind works.
So what you're saying is also that creativity is like essentially creativity is like the physical, the tangible nature of voice, of like sound.
Yes. Yes. Even like you see a good sunset. This is going to sound so crazy. It sounds crazy to me saying it. I see a sunset and it feels like something to me. That's the normal part. But then it sounds like something to me that could be expressed in the voice, whether it's like, or, it sounds like something I can express vocally.
Okay.
And then if I'm going to translate that to speaking, is it light and effervescent? Is it more weighted? Is it so like in August, the sunsets are sultry to me.
Yeah.
Don't make me nerd out about this anymore. I'm like, does this even make sense?
I mean, it does. It's like you have a feeling, you translate it for you, like you translate it to sound, and then you translate it to words. And then for musicians, they translate it to words and song. And then for a filmmaker, they're like, I'm going to translate this feeling into an image and capture it the way that I am like viewing this. Like when I see a sunset, I don't know what focal length my eyes are at, but I'm just like seeing it in one focal length, right?
Okay.
But the really cool thing, I'll nerd out for a sec. The really cool thing with the way my brain works is like sometimes I feel like I have like an ultra zoom of an eye because I'm constantly focused on little details in the distance or like wherever it is. And so when I'm looking at a sunset, I'm like, I see the sunset, but then I'm also seeing like the way it hits like this part of a mountain if I'm on a mountain range, or the way it's like reflecting off of water, or the way that it's kind of like translating through the different layers of the landscape. And so I use my talent with the camera, whether it's my phone or whether it's, a cinema camera that I have, to recreate that imagery that I'm seeing. So that other people can kind of see the perspective that I have from that moment.
And I'm so appreciative of your eye, because when I take a photo of something and somebody else standing right next to me, they take the same photo, I'm like, how'd you see that? And it's literally their eye, and my eye don't work like that. So I'm so grateful for you. But can you imagine? That's why it's so important. Let's say you take a photo or even some video of this beautiful scape on a mountain, the way the sun is hitting it. And then a voiceover artist comes in.
Yeah. You combine the two, you start combining like different forms of art.
But it has to be like a voice that makes sense. For the scape, for the way the sun is setting, for what you're ultimately trying to portray or message through that. And so all voices won't work. It needs to be specific.
And it is cool to be able to connect with other artists in that way as well, like collaborating with artists and like having the same vision and having the same convictions about like certain things, and like getting the same feeling in your heart when you look at things or when you experience stuff, and then you're able to translate that into the way that you speak through art. That's like such a special moment to be able to do that. So it's kind of cool to see and cool to talk about and put words to, because sometimes you feel those feelings, whether it's like the feeling of watching the sunset or the feeling of connecting with someone, and you can't necessarily always put words to it. So
and that's why we have so many mediums, though.
People like you that help people like find those words and find the voice inside of them to actually put words. Because at the end of the day, communication, right? That's like the biggest thing you were saying in marriage, but also it's like the biggest thing just in life. So being able to communicate your feelings and communicate the way that you're seeing something is huge. You
know what? That makes me think, the way I love words, I thought everybody did, but no, everybody doesn't. I love words, and certain words feel good in my mouth. Certain words feel good on my eardrums. Certain words give me a certain feeling. And the way I write is the way I think. And I've been told that I write very flowery. I don't mean to. It's just the way that I think.
Yeah.
But it also takes me back to a level of vulnerability that's required to really create and to like really express what's inside of us. Because when somebody told me, oh, you're just so flowery, I literally tried to just be very direct in my writing.
You tried to change yourself.
I tried to change myself because for some reason I felt like flowery meant not good. It meant doing the most, being extra.
Yeah.
And then I just realized I am. And it's okay. But it requires a vulnerability. And can you imagine just for a moment all the things that you think? And if you were actually vulnerable enough to express those things to your friend, to that young lady you're interested in, to even your employer, how much more robust your experience could be. That excites me.
Yeah.
And I help people do that.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are thankful for it.
I think sometimes I'm more excited than my clients. I'm like, do you understand what you can create here?
They're just like, nah, I'm just trying to like stick it to my boss.
Exactly. Nah, I'm just trying to get a raise.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
But that's the cool thing, because you do get to help people like accomplish goals like that, but then also find like healing too, like you were saying.
Exactly.
So,
deeper meaning.
Yeah. That's so cool.
The idea of like what's more important is form and function.
Oh, yeah.
More important than beauty? Or is beauty and aesthetic more important than form and function? Or is there like a place for it all? And I really think about this a lot in my work because oftentimes I'm working with an individual so that they can show up with a certain vocal aesthetic, if you will, or a certain presence or performance where it's all about the beauty and less about the function.
Yeah.
It is my deepest belief that they attend one another. And let me tell you why I'm inspired, okay? Because of the Bible. So there is this passage in Psalm 77, 13.
Okay.
And when I first read it, I was like, It says, thy way, O Lord, is in the sanctuary. And then it says something else right after that. And look it up. I encourage people, don't trust me, look it up. But when I thought it said, thy way, O Lord, is in the sanctuary, I had kind of read about the sanctuary before, but not really paying attention. So it made me go back in the Old Testament in like Exodus and look at the sanctuary. And then I learned that the sanctuary, the blueprint for the sanctuary that was built on earth, given to Moses, was the same blueprint. God said, as it is in heaven, he's given us the blueprint for Moses to, teach the people to make it.
Wow.
But check it out. God created artisans. He said he blessed, like there was a Bezalel and a Holiab, and he gave them the skill of cunning works, and they were to train other people. But check it out. The sanctuary, it was made of shittim wood, goat's hair, beaver skin.
Not very pretty things.
No.
Right?
And guess what?
In our eyes,
this is where, in our estimation, but maybe, those elements served as the functional stuff that's going to give structure to the sanctuary, that's going to keep it up. That badger skin was going to be waterproof, even though they were going through the desert. I don't know. Maybe it deflected some sunlight too. I don't know.
Maybe.
But all of those things were overlaid with gold. The sanctuary was blinged out, Ben.
Wow.
It was the original bling, right? And so it was overlaid with gold. All the instruments were gold. He could have left the wood. He could have left the badger skin hanging out. Even the goat's hair was dyed red.
Oh, wow.
And so I look at the sanctuary and I'm like, it's all this function because the whole sanctuary service taught us how to approach God. It took us from like the outer court where we had to confess our sins, and then to the laver where we had to wash and be forgiven, and then into the sanctuary where our prayers were ascending up, and the perfume and the blood of the sacrifice was, put on the veil. Like that whole service taught us how to interact with God, but it was all form, function, and beauty merged together.
Perfectly in balance and holiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes me believe that in our creative pursuits, whether we feel like the beauty or the aesthetic is in the ascendancy, it serves some function. And, or if the function, like whoever built this table, if the function of it was in the ascendancy, it still serves a beautiful, it has some beauty to it.
Yeah.
And so my wish for us creatives and creators are to never forget that they're beautifully meshed together.
Yeah.
It excites me.
Yeah. and like as a human, it kind of like gives us peace too, and gives us like this like reassurance that God is thinking about us as humans, as like little humans, because like you're talking about like your relationship with God and how that like is a catalyst for like how we interact with God. God cares about like the little things that we go through every day as well. And like the way that he wants us to interact with him and be in like relationship with him isn't so that he can just get like this like pompous like glory and praise.
No.
But he's like, follow these things that I'm teaching and you're going to find healing in that area that you're looking for. You're going to like become more of a joyful person, and you're going to be able to enjoy these little things in life, and you're going to be able to enjoy the people in life like a lot better.
Like the flowers in this room. Can you imagine? Everything could be brown and gray.
It could be, yeah.
Could be. But when I walk down the street and I see pops of pink and red, I'm like, God loves me. Like just those little things. Like
it's like a little reassurance.
For our delight and our enjoyment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. And I don't know, just gives me a feeling of excitement, I think.
Yeah.
Just for life in general. And it makes me want to do the small things. It makes me want to send that email, write that pitch deck. It makes me want to continue to push through like the mundane and keep working at the things that like I'm called to work through and at.
This conversation is so timely and on point for me because next month is literally the 7th year anniversary for Vocal Culture Garden.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
huge.
much. And there are some ideas that like are in my head that I want to bring forth. And I haven't pressed the button. I haven't, made the call. I haven't sent the email. And so this is encouraging me to like take that next creative step and put it out there.
Yeah, make it happen.
And make it happen. I'm nervous. I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, nerves are just a part of life. I think nerves for me just let me know that I'm like doing something worth failing at.
Yes. That part.
Yeah, it's worth it. And if I'm not going to have the chance at failure, then it's not really
It's not big enough. Yeah,
not big enough. Not risky enough. My compass in life, I've come to find out, is the uncomfortability of just like my nerves, being nervous about something or being like, ooh, should I? Accompanied by the peace of the Holy Spirit, the peace of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I think I'm pretty audacious in general. So when something makes me nervous, it's like really excitement. Like, girl.
Exactly.
You're about to do what? And so what I'm working on, I've been inspired by different things. And I'm like, I can rearrange the pieces and like use this for my voice practice and just come out. Because I never wanted my voice practice to present as corporate.
Okay.
That like,
yeah.
And so I want to take it a little bit further and do some things. And so like, I'm encouraged right now.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Make
excited,
it more personal
encouraged.
for the people, you know, just like Like you were saying about like helping people find their voice when it comes to like what attracts and doesn't attract like the opposite gender or whoever they're trying to attract, you know,
making
like,
it more palpable for the culture. Something as simple. Do you know how well I get treated in the grocery store line?
Oh yeah.
Because of certain ways of communicating with the workers. Like, I'm about to unlock cheat codes for people in voice communication.
You're like, you don't need no coupons anymore.
You don't need a coupon. All you need is your voice.
Just use your voice. It is so funny though, because I mean, I've experienced it with some of my friends who are just very naturally joyful and very naturally like positive and, you know, go out to dinner, go out to drinks or whatever. And next thing you know, we're like getting free drinks because they made friends with the bartender.
This is my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It happens.
And it's okay. Here's a cheat code for the, for the listeners. When we are just human and like you mentioned, joyful and positive, there's so much dreariness in the world that people are like looking without knowing to be revived just by a little joy. And so when you go like into a place, whether it's a restaurant or the grocery store line, and you actually just, hi, how are you? That person has done 1,000 beats and people, well, how much does that cost? And you just take time to make them feel seen through your voice. Cheat code unlocked. They're going to be like, here's a secret coupon. We're not telling everybody, but I'm gonna just go ahead and swipe that for you. You know? It makes a difference. And those are the little moments that I live for.
Me too. And just the genuine connection that you get to have with that person as well. And learning from people, and like Trader Joe's has become one of my favorite grocery stores because they actually, it's a requirement for their employees. They actually like encourage their employees to make not small talk, but making real talk with their customers. Like
their training program, like Trader Joe's call me, okay? Because I would love to get in and do some voice work with your, you know, executive team, because whatever program that they train their employees on, I see it from store. Even my children notice we're Trader Joe's junkies, and so my children are always trying to find the little hidden. Did you know about that? The little hidden thing. And so every Trader Joe's we go to, we're talking to the people, and they make you feel seen and heard, which makes you want to come back and spend more money, and all the things. Why don't more companies do this? Like, I do consult with companies and some don't even see the benefit, but I'm like, your front facing clients, you want them to have the voice of the brand. Yeah, exactly. And it's compelling. Yeah. I mean, Chick-fil-A does a really good job of that too. So I've never had that because I don't eat Chick-fil-A. Oh, okay. But I've heard secondhand testimonials that their customer service is stellar. It is. It really is. I learned a lot from working there, like as a teenager. It just, their training program too, not even just their training program, but it's all about like the culture. The culture. It's not necessarily something that you can train someone in. It's just when you develop a culture, it brings the level up. And it brings everybody's level of work, level of interaction with customers, whatever it is. You set a bar here, and then if everybody's doing that, then the person that's not going to do it is going to be the one left out, and then it 100%. Kind of brings them up with it. 100%. So, I love, look, butterflies special. Again. I love it. But it's taught me a lot, you know, and just how I interact with my clients now and how I operate and go about life, because now I know the positive effects that can happen if you carry that level of joy and carry that level of care, even on a small level with people and interactions. Yes. I used to run this program called The Voice of Hospitality that focused on small hospitality businesses like restaurants, boutique hotels. And you would, I'm sure, not be surprised if a worker at a restaurant or a hotel is personable enough and use their voice to connect, even if the service is not stellar or just a little bit subpar, that client will return. Versus great food, good service, nasty attitude or lackluster. Or even just like
monotoned and not even exciting.
Exactly. Like, because that said, monotone says, I'm not excited. I don't care. Why am I even here? That person is less likely to return. Why? Because of the way the experience made them feel.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I went to a jazz club the other night, and I love jazz clubs. My waiter was the most monotone, non-excited dude, like, bless his soul, but he just wasn't it. And for me, it's like, I love jazz enough, I'll probably still go back to that place.
But you don't want to see him again.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I'm probably going to look for another jazz club, like, you know,
but
just
do you
because...
see how impactful that experience is? That's how I am. I'm a customer service junkie.
Yeah.
And the impact of the way the employees show up in their voice and in their presence.
Yep.
It means so much.
It does.
Yeah.
It means a lot. And I think for like creatives as well, it's so important to connect with people that way, because we can be internalized so much with our art, and we can be internalized so much with like the way that we're creating, because we're like, oh, this is my voice.
Yes.
But in reality, you need to be able to connect with other people. So,
exactly. Like there's this artist that I'm currently working with, genius visual artist, but very withdrawn. And it's not an issue of being an introvert or an extrovert.
No.
That's not the issue. But very withdrawn.
I'm an introvert, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. But and people don't necessarily believe me. Like, you're always talking to people. I'm like,
like, okay, now I need to go recharge.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not even really the issue for this artist. They are so into their internal world that they almost put up an invisible barrier for anybody to even inquire about their art, to want to engage with their art, so that therefore they're not purchasing.
Yeah.
And so I'm working with them to just learn how to be a little bit more open, to learn how to use their voice to invite people in to inquire about the art.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important. Yeah. It's very, very important.
Yeah. I love it. I'm so blessed to get to do this.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. It gets me excited. Well, thank you for hopping on. This has been epic. I'm glad we got to make it work. And you're just so knowledgeable at so many different things, and it shows. And so it's really cool to learn from you and grow my expertise and grow my, like, the way that I think and view the world.
No, thank you for seeing merit in the gift that God has given me, and for wanting to engage in this conversation. And just even this just like sparks me with so much fuel to go out there and like press that button, send that email, do that thing, and even ask for that help that I need to bring my internal reality to fruition. Yeah.
No, it's so important. And it's, you know, the reason why I try to have these conversations too is, I mean, it inspires me every day too, you know? So my goal is to just share those and encourage people, and hopefully spark like a generation to change, you know, and to seek like human connection on a more deep level, to seek their creative genius on a deep level, and to do things with purpose.
Yes.
So, Purpose. It's the word.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Guys, Mellini Bramlett, correct?
Mellini Bramlett.
Yes.
But I go by Mellini Monique.
Okay, so, Mellini Monique.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
I'll put our socials down below, and you can go follow her. She's awesome. And we'll catch you next time.
She's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course.
So much fun.
Peace.